Are you ready to unlock your full potential and maximize your productivity? Look no further than Productivity Smart, the ultimate audio podcast hosted by renowned productivity expert Gerald J. Leonard. In every episode, Gerald shares captivating stories, invaluable tips, and cutting-edge strategies that will transform the way you approach productivity. Whether you're looking to reduce stress, overcome overwhelm, or simply get more done in less time, Productivity Smart has got you covered. But that's not all. You'll also gain inspiration from real-life success stories of individuals who have achieved greatness through productivity. Plus, you'll learn the latest tools, techniques, and habits that will help you achieve a new level of happiness and fulfillment in your personal and professional life. So why wait? Join us every week as we delve into the exciting world of productivity and help you unleash your full potential. Get ready to take your productivity to the next level with Productivity Smarts. As a productivity expert and host of the Productivity Smarts podcast, Gerald J. Leonard has been a proud supporter of Kiva since 2011. Kiva is a non-profit organization that helps entrepreneurs in third world countries access the capital they need to start or grow their businesses. By making a small loan through Kiva, you can help these entrepreneurs achieve their dreams, support their families, and contribute to their local economies. And with a repayment rate of over 96%, your loan can be relent to another entrepreneur once it's repaid, creating a ripple effect of positive change. So if you're looking for a meaningful way to make a difference in the world, consider making a loan through Kiva. With loans as small as $25, anyone can be a microlender and help change lives. Visit kiva.org to learn more and start lending today.
Well, good day, everyone. Today I'm speaking to Scott Jeffery Miller. I'm really excited about this conversation. Now, to give you an understanding of who Scott is, he went from the front line as a salesperson to a CMO of a global public company, and he battled a lifelong stutter, which is amazing, feeling inadequate and never feeling good enough to become a husband, the father of three, a 5-time bestselling author, keynote speaker, coach, innovator, former iHeart radio host, entrepreneur, principal in a speaking talent and literary agency, and the host of the world's largest weekly podcast on leadership with Scott Miller. He has had the opportunity to interview Grammy Award-winning artists, Oscar and Academy Award-winning actors and actresses, Olympians, 4-star general, Fortune 50 CEOs, a New York Times and Wall Street Journal best-selling authors, survivors of trauma, abuse, and more. Scott, welcome to the podcast, Productivity Smarts.
When you say it that way, I think, whose journey was that? That can't be mine. But I recognized a couple of things in there. Gerald, thanks for shining your spotlight on me today. I'm grateful.
Excellent. Well, I'm so happy that you reached out as I'm, marketing to talk to more folks and that we were able to get connected and really have a great conversation today. So, Scott, Obviously you got a lot to share. How did you get started? What was the thing that really helped you to become successful, that helped you to overcome even your stutter?
Well, I have suffered from a lifelong speech impediment, decades of speech therapy, braces 3 times, Invisalign headgear, therapy, you name it, right?
Yep.
But it may sound like a cliche. I've had amazing mentors in my life, people that cared about me, people that forgave me, people that pre-forgave me. People that took me under their arms and said, nope, not again, Scott. Or, nope, you can't say that. Or, Scott, stop doing that. Or, Scott, you're standing at a gas station and you're holding a match. Come aside, we got to talk. So I have been the beneficiary, the recipient of enormous mentorship poured into me. Some formally, some informally. Sometimes they were my leaders. Sometimes they were my priests. Sometimes they were my neighbors. And I've named a lot of people my mentor that don't to this day even know they were mentoring me. And that's why I wrote this book, The Ultimate Guide to Great Mentorship, because I'm passionate. Of the 350 people I've interviewed on this podcast that I host, On Leadership with Scott Miller, what they all have in common, Gerald, you know this, is they also got where they are through great mentorship in their lives.
Yes, yes. You know, it's interesting. Mentorship plays such an important part in every successful person's life because no one
Amen.
gets there alone, and success leaves clues. But we just have to have the right person to help identify and show us what those clues are. It's kind of like finding the right tour guide, right? It's like going on an amazing vacation and finding the right tour guide to show you around because he's been there over and over again. Now, let me ask you this question. What do you think is poorly understood about mentoring and coaching to where people feel like they don't need it?
Well, several things. One is probably arrogance and lack of humility to think that you're going to figure it out on your own. Why would you do that? I mean, second, I think a lot of us envision mentorship as some program your employer has and they match you with someone from the C-suite. That's true. And if that exists, take advantage of it.
Right.
But I also think that we should redefine the role of leadership. You know, my biggest mentors in my life, I've never met. They died not having known I existed, but I listened to their talk radio program for 4 years every night of the week and absorbed their knowledge. I can't imagine a successful, mature, interdependent person not thinking they could benefit from mentorship. And I think the last fallacy is that your mentorship has to be the most successful person in town. No, if I want to become a billionaire, I don't go get mentored by the billionaire. I go find the guy that's had 4 bankruptcies. If I want to have a 40-year marriage, I don't go to the guy that's had a 40-year marriage. I go to the guy that's had 4 marriages because I likely can't recreate the genius, the patience, the creativity, the temperament, the vision, the personality of the person who's successful. But I can steer clear of all the mistakes the guy made on the bankruptcy and the multiple failed marriages. So
Right.
I think another mistake that people make is they think they have to go find the most successful person. No, find the least successful person that's tried the hardest, document all their mistakes from them, and just don't do those, and you'll be 80% of the way to success.
Gotcha. That's a really cool way of looking at it. I personally, I always say go, shoot for the moon, find the right person. But in the process, if you can't find the right person, identify their books or find someone next to you.
Yes.
I think it's the value from my life. What I've experienced with mentorship is that I think it's the value of talking it out and having someone else be a sounding board and provide you a mirror and help you see yourself and your steps. And as you're growing, to help kind of guide you in your thinking, or at least get you to think out loud of where you're going and what you're doing.
These are opposite sides of the same coin.
Yes.
I think the fire that you're leaving our listeners with today is shoot for the moon, find the best people, and pay real close attention to all the mistakes that hardworking people made along the way, right? I mean, don't put yourself in a situation where you're tempted to cheat on your spouse. That's going to end your marriage and destroy your family. Don't snort cocaine. It's probably laced with fentanyl. You're going to die. I mean, I have friends. I mean, it sounds bombastic, but, I've watched these things very carefully. Okay, not doing that and not going to do that and going to steer clear of that. And I actually think I'm not much smarter than the next guy. In fact, I may not be as smart as the next guy, but I just pay attention to all the failures of those people who were smarter than me, and I just don't do them.
Exactly.
Simple as that.
Exactly. Now, with that being said, tell us your story. I mean, I kind of quickly, I can't say glossed or in the introduction talked about your journey. Tell us your story.
Yeah, very clearly raised in an upper-class family in Central Florida in the 70s. Dad worked 35 years for a defense contractor. My mother was a full-time stay-at-home mom, was raised in a very Caucasian family in Central Florida. It was a very stable, fortunate life. I took a job at the Walt Disney Company for 4 years. After 4 years, they invited me to leave, which is kind of how you get fired at Disney. And so where does a single Catholic boy from Orlando move to? Well, Provo, Utah, where all the Catholics were 28 years ago. I'm, of course, kidding. There were no Catholics in the entire state of Utah 28 years ago. But Dr. Stephen R. Covey, who, of course, was the founder of the Covey Leadership Center, now known as the Franklin Covey Company. Your listeners and viewers know him as the leadership author behind the greatest book written in our generation, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This book has sold 60 million copies. I started on the front line and worked my way into the C-suite, where I became the chief marketing officer and the executive vice president of thought leadership for 10 years, which is 3 times the national average of a public company CMO. Had an amazing run tutoring under Dr. Covey and many other people. And along the way, learned a few things about sales leadership, culture, the difference between leadership and management, and mentoring. And that's why now I've written this book called The Ultimate Guide to Great Mentorship, in many ways a tribute to Dr. Covey, who passed a decade ago.
Yeah.
I retired from the firm 3 years ago, but I'm still an ambassador for them, writing books and speaking for them and kind of doing my own thing alongside them.
Excellent. Well, when you think about Dr. Covey and just the legacy that he left behind, I first read The 7 Habits in 1992, and it changed my life.
Wow. You were an early bird. You were an early bird.
It changed my life. And here's why it changed my life, because one, the weekly reviewing process or weekly planning process, but also to identify your roles.
Yes.
And then every week you identify what's the 1 or 2 things that you're going to do to move your life forward in those roles. And what it did for me was, before I read his book, I was really ambitious and focused as a musician, but I would often focus on one area of my life, run full tilt to that area, and then look back over the week and go, but man, I didn't get this done. I didn't talk to this person. I didn't do that. I didn't do the other. And it gave me a process and a framework to kind of, on a weekly basis, run around the bases of my life and touch every plate.
That is so gratifying. He was a man of impeccable character, passed a decade ago. His legacy continues to live with the Franklin Covey Company. But after dedicating 27 years of my entire career there in totality, almost 28 years now, it's so gratifying to hear you articulate that so directly about aligning your goals and your values and your weekly planning. This becomes your mission. It becomes your purpose. Nicely said.
Yeah, I tell you what, it radically changed my life. And my life has never been the same since. I still leverage those principles today. I'm 60. I leverage those principles today. Now, before we move on, I want to take a moment as we go into this conversation. I want to take a moment to tell you about a fantastic book, A Symphony of Choices.
Introducing A Symphony of Choices, the must-read book for any manager looking to improve their decision-making, project management, and workplace engagement skills. Author Gerald J. Leonard takes readers on a journey through a high-pressure season for a symphony orchestra, where a mentorship program was implemented to turn things around. Through real-life examples and relatable anecdotes, you'll learn how mentorship can transform a team, boost productivity, and achieve outstanding results. This book is not just for music industry professionals, but for anyone in a leadership position who wants to improve their management skills. With practical tips and actionable advice, you'll discover how to make sound decisions in high-pressure situations, motivate your team to achieve their best work, manage complex projects with ease, foster a culture of collaboration and teamwork, and much more. A Symphony of Choices is a timely resource full of practical tools and real examples that will help you build the knowledge and skills to thrive in a project-driven world. Antonio Nieto Rodriguez. A Symphony of Choices is a book that will inspire and empower you to become a better leader. Whether you're a seasoned executive or just starting out in your career, this book is an invaluable resource for anyone looking to improve their management skills and achieve success in the workplace. Order your copy today and join the thousands of managers who have already benefited from the mentorship lessons presented in A Symphony of Choices.
Welcome back. Now, Scott, you've written an amazing book. And I can say that because you sent me a copy and I read it.
I appreciate that.
I really did. And I love digging into books because I believe in the value of being a lifelong learner. And I believe that once you become an expert on a topic, that's like getting a driver's license. You're just getting started. Doesn't mean that you have the skills to go and drive an Indy 500 car and around the racetrack. In other words, that once you become an expert or you've learned so much, to me, that's just the beginning of learning. And so obviously you've written looks like I'm looking behind
7.
you right now. Looks almost
I've
like
written
20
se-
books.
I've
You've written a
published
lot of
7.
books.
Got a few more in the queue. Trying to catch up to you, my friend.
Well, no, I'm trying to catch up to you. But here's what I love about the book. I went through the I think it's like 13 areas of mentorship.
13 roles, 13 roles,
of
right?
mentorship.
Yeah.
And as I read through it, I looked at it and I said, which roles speak to me that I thought I would want to know more about? And so I thought about the roles of the revealer, the questionnaire, the visionary, and the connector. So I'd love to take a deep dive into those areas.
Yes.
Because when I think about the revealer, the things I picked up was that the revealer has a framework. They're kind of like a paleontologist, right? They're kind of digging around. They're exploring. They're discovering, but they also are very careful or hyper aware of where they put their feet, right? Yeah. So that they don't create damage the person that they're mentoring. Can you go into that a little bit more?
Well, you said it beautifully. This is, of course, a metaphor, right? I think the first role is the revealer, because as a mentor, I think your primary job is to help your mentee get something done, get something accomplished, something progressed, a goal identified and a goal accomplished. So like a paleontologist or an archaeologist, you have to be aware of your footprint, how much of your personality, your voice, your tone, your rate, your inflection, your drive, your business acumen can be very intimidating to somebody, especially if you're in a more senior, seasoned stage of life. And this requires you to be super self-aware. What's it like to be on the end of a Zoom call with you, on a coaching call? Right. What is your vocabulary like? How quickly do you accelerate and compartmentalize information? Does your mentee need to become someone different than they really are just to keep up with you? Right. It's very important as a mentor that you're mindful, you're self-aware of what it's like to be mentored by you. That's why I don't think all leaders make great mentors. A lot of the skills that make you a great leader don't make you a great mentor. That's the second role, or at least the second one you identified, the questioner. Right. So in this role, the revealer is making sure you never make the golden rule of mentorship, which is never say, well, Gerald, if I were you, I would do it this way, because you're not Gerald. Right. You don't share the same passions, traumas, fears, concerns, backgrounds, socioeconomic, you name it. You don't share it. You cannot live vicariously through your mentee, which many mentors end up doing. What you could say is, well, Gerald, when I faced a similar set of circumstances, here was the criteria I identified based on my values and my goals, and here's how I worked through it. Right. Let's see if any of those have any correlation to you. Let's talk about what are all the ups and downsides of what your decision-making process should be. Let's work through those. Very important as the revealer to gently brush away. Don't helicopter in metaphorically to your dig site and, brush up a bunch of dust and jackhammer around. I mean, that's kind of my style, right? Is we'll do it this way and do it that way. And we'll do here. By 4 o'clock, we'll be there. I'm a very prescriptive person. Right. It's one of my strengths. And we know that when strengths are overplayed, they become weaknesses. So my strength as a charismatic, forceful entrepreneur and leader, I get what done. I think it's done on time, on budget, with success. And as a mentor, you got to check all that. You got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Yeah. You got to be more patient, be a better listener, not prescribe, but sort of just brush away. Your job is to uncover so your mentee can discover.
I love that. Now, also then I looked at the questioner, and there it was, you talked about the skills of an attorney, employing insightful questions, asking open-ended questions, surfacing issues, building trust, but also uncovering insecurities and misconceptions. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, again, I think a lot of leaders like me learn the discipline of asking piercing questions, right? Sort of like name that tune. How few tunes can you guess a song? Can you peel the onion and get to the root cause? I can get to the root cause of any issue in 3 questions. I've had 40 years almost in business, right? 30 as a public officer in a large company. But those skills always don't work well with your mentee because you can back someone to a corner. I haven't thought about that. I haven't thought about that. I haven't thought about that. Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do.
Right.
That's a prosecuting attorney. You're sort of more like a defense attorney, right? Where you're saying, so Gerald, when you say this, tell me more about that, right? I mean, you get the point. I'm not a legal scholar.
Right.
I hope that metaphor works. Now, that doesn't mean you can't ask penetrating questions, but probably not like a kangaroo where you're boxing someone. You're saying, so Gerald, you tell me your lifelong goal is to become a patent attorney. That's an interesting goal. Tell me how you came to that. Or Gerald, what I hear from you is you're considering being a massage therapist or an orthopedic surgeon. They both had to do with the body, but they're about 15 years apart in schooling. Let's talk about how those two became your options versus that's an idiot. Of course you should become a surgeon. Or I don't know, I'm making this up.
Yeah.
Be thoughtful around the questions you ask and make sure they are progressing your mentee's journey, not the mentor's journey.
Gotcha. So now, the visionary. Now, what I got from the visionary is someone who paints the picture of the future, maybe even finds a new summit for the person to climb onto, helps the mentee to stretch, helps them to anchor their habits or day-to-day activities into the future of their work or who they're becoming. Also to set a stage for them moving from conception into concrete actions. Can you talk a little bit more about the visionary?
I think of the 13 roles, this one has the biggest misconception.
Okay.
As the visionary, your job is not to say, well, you could do this and you could do that. And what if you did this? And what if you did that? Because a lot of that may be based on your skill set or on your missed opportunity. And so you can vision your mentee into paralysis. I'm known as being the kind of guy that can irresponsibly inspire anyone to do anything. What? You want to give a keynote to a 10,000 person stadium tomorrow? I do it all the time. Let's go to a hotel and practice for an hour. You'll be fine. What? You live in Florida? You never snow skied? Come on out to Utah. In 2 hours, I'll be having you doing black diamonds. I'm an irresponsible visionary because I tend to convince you that you can do what I can do. And that's not true.
Right.
I look behind you. All those certifications and degrees and credentials, all those instruments, I can't do any of that. And so as the visionary, you have to employ a level of discipline to make sure that you are visioning a future that is the future your mentee both wants and can accomplish.
Yes.
It's the opposite of the intuitive idea would be, I should be thinking of big, bold ideas. Maybe. I should be stretching my mentee's view what's possible. Maybe. Or maybe the best route for your mentee is, in fact, to become a massage therapist. And in 18 months, when they have carpal tunnel, they can call you back and say, well, I mean, you were super passionate about this and we talked about it, but, you didn't really have the biology courses or the aptitude to become a surgeon, and you told me that. So I didn't will you into an undergraduate degree change from communication to biology because I thought that would crush you.
Right.
You should pursue this role very judiciously.
Yeah. And then the last one, obviously, there's 13 of them, and we're only going to cover 4 of them. The last one, I thought, and the reason I selected this one because I think you even said in the book it was optional.
Yes.
And that was the connector. And the reason why the connector stood out to me is because it's about opening doors, right? It's about trusting the mentee enough to expose them to your network, right? And expanding their network, helping them create win-wins in their environments when they do reach out to others in the network, sharing the value of networking, and creating additional opportunities. And it spoke to me because when I think about the relationships I've had with coaches, whether it's Jack Canfield or Stephen Harrison or John Kramer, I tend to, without them asking me to, I tend to look around the corner and go, who's mentored him? And sometimes they'll tell you, W. Clement Stone mentored me. Okay, so now I'm going to go read up on W. Clement Stone, or Darren Hardy with Jim Rohn, and so on.
Sure.
And so, but I tend to kind of look around and go, well, who are they talking to? And then I go learn stuff from them. So tell me a little bit more about the connector, because that did speak to
So
me.
this is very much an optional role. I think a lot of us see mentors as people that probably have big metaphorical Rolodexes, right? I mean, like you, we both host podcasts and we have a large professional network. I was at a university recently, a large university that's licensed this mentorship content
Okay.
for about 1,200 alumni and undergraduate students. I was giving a keynote speech on the 13 roles, and one of the alumni executives raised his hand and said, "Oh, I'm so delighted. Just this morning, I came from a speed mentor session in the student union where I met 7 students and gave them each 5 minutes of my time. And I was making connections left and right and texting my friends, this, that, and the other." He was so proud. And I said, "I'm delighted for you. And I would never do that under any circumstance." And he was horrified. And I said, "Next to my soul, my most precious asset is my reputation.
Right.
And my reputation, I've worked very hard to maintain and repair sometimes. And my relationships is everything to me. I'm never going to make an introduction, a connection to a person I've been mentoring for 2 weeks to an Oracle vice president or to Ariana Huffington or Deepak Chopra. I'm not doing that. In fact, I'm going to set boundaries. Rule number 2 is the boundary setter.
Yes.
Where you should be very clear what you are and are not going to do so that your mentee doesn't put you or them in an uncomfortable, embarrassing, awkward situation by asking for an introduction to Matthew McConaughey. Sorry, no. Hell no. Not happening.
Exactly.
So good fences make good neighbors.
Yep.
And you have to decide whether or not you value your network like I do. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not a scarce person. I got to where I am by other people giving me access to their network after they knew me for several years and saw me make and keep hundreds of commitments, saw me offer apologies, saw me say, "I made a mistake, I dropped the ball, I own this, I will fix it." And then they became my ally, my champion, my advocate. Don't make the mistake that your mentee is your ally or champion. Right. You may or may not earn your way into that. The connector role is totally optional.
I totally agree, because, the way I look at the connector role and why it spoke to me so profoundly was because, I'm definitely a connector with my own network. And as I'm working with other mentors or coaches, I'm pretty much the person who's looking at what they're doing and who's helped them. And I will look at it from the standpoint of going to learn from their people or the people that work with them. But as far as introducing people that I'm mentoring to my network of people, I totally agree with you that it has to be a person that is, basically living up to the standard and able to deliver, that someone that I can trust, that they're going to, because it's my reputation on the line, that if I recommend someone else and says, "I trust
that's
this person,"
what it comes down to.
Right. If I trust this person and then I recommend them and then they don't live up to it, then it puts a shadow on my judgment of character, because I made this recommendation on a person who can't deliver.
Gerald, I learned that the hard way. I thought when I started to become a little more of a public profile and I had all these sort of celebrity connections, making connections left and right. And I thought, look at me, the connector. And then I realized, that was the wrong connector. That didn't work out very well. Or I really hadn't vetted that person and I made an impulsive connection. And so as my impulsivity has lessened, my batting average has increased. Gotcha. And so don't let any listeners or viewers mistake any of this with being or having a scarce mindset. I'll make connections all day long. You just have to earn it.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. Now, we need to take a quick break here. So if you want to take your productivity to the next level and achieve even greater success, check out our sponsor, Growth Strategies.
Are you looking for a way to take your business or career to the next level? Look no further than the Growth Strategies Coaching and Mastermind Program from the Productivity Intelligence Institute. This innovative program is designed for entrepreneurs, business owners, and professionals who want to accelerate their growth and achieve their goals faster than they ever thought possible. Led by productivity expert and mastermind coach Gerald J. Leonard, this program offers a unique blend of coaching, mentorship, and peer support. Through weekly coaching calls, personalized feedback, and accountability from a supportive community of like-minded professionals, you'll learn the strategies and tactics you need to achieve your most ambitious goals. Whether you're looking to increase revenue, build your team, or launch a new product or service, the Growth Strategies Coaching and Mastermind program can help you get there. Ready to take your business or career to the next level? Sign up for the Growth Strategies Coaching and Mastermind program today at productivityintelligenceinstitute.com/mastermind.
Welcome back. There's so much more we can talk about with your book that, and I kind of, chose those 4 roles, but again, there's 13 of them. So there's 9 more that we didn't talk about, and they're just as profound as the 4 that we did talk about. So I would definitely say if you're listening to this, please go get the book. It is an amazing book. The Ultimate Guide to Great Mentorship, 13 Roles to Making a True Impact. Scott Jeffery Miller. Now, Scott, I have to ask this question because success leaves clues, and you've already told me that Stephen Covey was one of your mentors, or your boss, and mentored you. Who else played a major role in your life? Because you mentioned so many people in the beginning, but who else, if you were to think of someone that, besides Stephen Covey, that mentored you and provided you with an aha moment, who would that be?
I mean, the list is too long to narrow. There's a man named Bruce Williams that back in the 80s, he hosted a radio talk show called The Bruce Williams Show. And he was a combination small town mayor entrepreneur. And every weekday night from 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern time, he had a program where people called in. I just inherited an estate. How do I invest it, right? I want to open up a flower business. What's the first step? How do I buy a home? What is mortgage insurance? What is PMI? Do I need an attorney for this? How do I do that? And so while most of my junior high school friends were out listening to ABBA and INXS and Cyndi Lauper on the radio, I was nerd alert listening to Bruce Williams. Well, the fact is, 5 nights a week for 3 hours a night, I absorbed a few financial tips in life. And here I come out of high school with basically an MBA, right? Listening to this guy. What's interesting is Bruce Williams is my biggest mentor in life. Never met him. He has no idea I was even alive. He passed away a couple of years ago, having no clue Scott Miller would write a book and talk about him on every podcast. And so I'd encourage your listeners and viewers to redefine who is their mentor in life. It doesn't have to be someone you know. It also can be, but it also can be someone's books you write. Like you mentioned W. Clement Stone. I mean, wow, what an icon.
Yes.
What an icon. I'd forgotten about him.
Yes.
Go find a mentor. Right. Absorb everything you can learn from them. Their books, their podcasts, their speeches, their conferences, whatever it is. And you also should know that I don't care how big your celebrity or fame or success is. Everybody's now doing the same thing at 9:45 at night. They're in their bed. They're on their phone. They're watching House Hunters International, and they're scrolling through their Instagram and their LinkedIn. Send them a message in their DM and say, "You've been mentoring me for the last 9 months. I wonder if you might cap it off with a 15-minute phone call." Of course, they're going to say, "Hun, look at this. What is this? Who's this?" They're going to check you out. They're going to write back, "Okay, I will. 15 minutes. You got it. I guarantee you it will work."
Wow. And I truly believe that because nowadays we're literally a click away, right?
We're a click away.
We're a click away.
You're a click away from Steven Spielberg, Seth Godin, Dan Pink, Susan Cain, Liz Wiseman, Tim Scott. You're a click away from Gerald Leonard, everybody. Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, let me ask you this before we start wrapping up here. What are some challenges that you've helped clients with lately?
Oh, I think helping to discern who should be a leader in their company and who should not.
Okay. And how do you go about doing that?
Well, too many companies, their leadership process is they promote the individual contributor who has the highest performance. Yeah. And never is there a correlation between the high-performing sales contributor and the sales leader, or the most creative digital designer and the leader of the creative department, or the most artistic nail tech and the manager of the nail salon. And too often, companies promote their top individual producers to become a leader of people, and it requires a massive change in their mindset.
Right.
How do I achieve results with and through other people? Do I take delight in the success of those around me? Will I be jealous or excited when the person who used to work for me now is promoted beyond me and earns more money in me? Do I take delight in that?
Right.
And if the answer is no, that doesn't mean you're a bad person. That means you ought to stay a kick-butt individual producer. Not everyone should be a commercial airline pilot. Not everybody should be an anesthesiologist. And not everyone should be a leader of people.
Exactly.
And too many careers are wrecked because the only way to get promoted in companies, to earn more money, have more influence, get a big title, is to lead people, and great individual contributor careers implode. And what happens is they learn, wait a minute, I don't want to do this. I don't want to have high courage conversations all day long and hold people accountable and fire people. And do they then leave that job and go back to their previous job? No, they leave that job and leave that company. No one goes back down. So now companies have lost their leadership pipeline,
Right.
and they've lost key individual producers.
And they've
I'm
lost
pretty
all of that
upset with
knowledge. I think the most
Totally.
the thing that's most critical is they've lost all of that knowledge,
Institutional
and
knowledge, yes.
Exactly, institutional knowledge.
Yeah.
So Scott, if someone wants to get to know you and reach out to you and learn more about you, where do they go?
Well, they got to know me in the last 45 minutes, and for that, I appreciate you. You can visit the book site, greatmentorship.com.
Okay.
On there, I have a mentorship kit. I have a mentorship certification program. I'm on every social platform, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. Follow me. My books are for sale. I have 7 books that I've written, and so they're all for sale on all the small and large retailers, brick and mortar. And to quote my wife, you kind of can't miss me. And that wasn't a compliment from her. She thinks I'm overexposed. She's like, why would someone want to get to know him better? I'm like, no, hun, you're confusing me with our 3 young boys who look and sound like me. I'm lovely. It's them you're frustrated with, not me. Like, whatever.
And then she goes, go sit down.
She's got 4 sons, she would say.
Exactly. Well, Scott, I have enjoyed our conversation, and I look forward to continuing reading your other books, learning more about you myself. I'm so thankful that we've had this opportunity to have this conversation, and our paths have crossed. And I know my listeners would really enjoy this as well, and have really enjoyed this. So thank you so much for joining Productivity Smarts podcast, and all the best.
Thank you, Gerald. Thank you for the platform. I appreciate you.
If you're enjoying the content and finding it valuable, we would appreciate it if you could take a moment and leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us and helps us reach a wider audience. If you leave us a 5-star review, it would mean the world to us. Not only does it help us improve the podcast, but it also helps us attract more sponsors and grow our community. Thank you again for your support and for listening to the Productivity Smarts podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to Productivity Smarts, where we help you achieve your goals and live your best life. We hope you've gained valuable insights and actionable strategies to boost your productivity and increase your happiness and fulfillment. Remember to apply what you've learned and keep striving towards your goals. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more inspiring episodes and expert advice from our host, Gerald J. Leonard. Until next time, keep pushing forward and unleashing your productivity smarts.